Literally the last couple of minutes, we have received a statement from King Charles about the arrest of his younger brother. I'm going to read it to you now. The King says, "I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and suspicion of misconduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair, and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I have said before, the authorities, have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all." An unprecedented statement from the King. And I can tell you guys, we have been speaking to royal historians all morning. No one can think of a parallel where the younger brother of the sitting monarch is in police custody and potentially facing charges. Craig.
Unprecedented.
Hi guys, welcome back to UK Unfiltered. Picture this, it is a brisk Thursday morning in February 2026, and while the rest of the world is grabbing their morning latte, the British monarchy is facing a constitutional earthquake that has measuring scales at Buckingham Palace vibrating into the red zone. Just 2 minutes ago, the palace released a deeply somber update regarding King Charles III, coming hot on the heels of a headline that seems more suited to a high-stakes crime thriller than the court's circular. His brother, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the man formerly known as the Duke of York, has been arrested. We're talking about unmarked police cars at Sandringham Estate, plainclothes officers, and a suspicion of misconduct in public office that has sent the 77-year-old king into a tailspin of profound concern. It is a day of fashion runways and police prisons, of royal smiles and hidden sadness. And the most shocking part, the king didn't even get a heads up before the handcuffs came out. Quick favor, if you're loving this, hit that subscribe button. Over 92% of viewers haven't yet. It's free, takes a second, and means the world to us. Thanks if you did. Now back to the show. The timeline of the disaster is as fast-paced as a London Underground train during rush hour. It was shortly after 8 a.m. today when the quiet of the Sandringham Estate in Norfolk was shattered. A fleet of unmarked police vehicles pulled up at Wood Farm, the modest red brick cottage where Andrew only recently moved after being evicted from Royal Lodge. More about Andrew's arrest, watch this.
Hallie Jackson, who has interviewed Epstein survivors throughout the course of this investigation. Hallie, good morning. So Andrew's been arrested. There's fallout over other public figures who've been tied to Epstein. But I can't help but think about all of the victims here, the victims who've been showing up place after place, waiting for something to happen. So how important have their voices been in all of this?
Critically, Hoda, and that is what so many, I think, around the country and around the world have tried to center, the voices of these survivors, including one of Epstein's most prominent accusers, Virginia Roberts Giuffre. Now, this arrest, of course, is a separate matter than the sex assault allegations against Andrew, which he has long denied. By Virginia Roberts, died by suicide last year. But this morning, we are hearing from Giuffre's family. They are saying, at last. At last. They say their broken hearts have been lifted at the news that no one is above the law, not even royalty. They go on to say, on behalf of our sister, we extend our gratitude to the Thames Valley Police for the investigation and arrest. And they say Andrew was never a prince, adding, for survivors everywhere, Virginia did this for you. Now, the attention on Andrew had intensified even before the release of these DOJ Epstein documents after Giuffre released that posthumous memoir in which she wrote that Andrew believed having sex with her was his birthright. In 2022, the two settled a civil sex abuse lawsuit out of court. In a statement without admitting wrongdoing, Andrew said he regrets his association with Epstein and never intended to malign Giuffre's character. Hoda.
This wasn't a social call from the local constabulary. This was Thames Valley Police executing an arrest on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The allegations that during his decade-long stint as a UK trade envoy, Andrew allegedly treated confidential government documents like a casual group chat, reportedly sharing market-changing information with none other than Jeffrey Epstein. As the news broke, the global media erupted, but the man at the top, King Charles, was allegedly kept in the dark until the sirens were already fading. This lack of communication between the Home Office and the palace suggests a terrifying new reality for the royals. The inner circle protection is gone. It is as if the drawbridge of privilege has been lowered from the outside, and the king is left standing in the courtyard, wondering who has the keys. Now, you might think an arrest of this magnitude would lead to a total palace lockdown, but King Charles is nothing if not a stickler for the keep calm and carry on mantra. Hours after his brother was taken into custody, the king stepped out for day one of London Fashion Week. Talk about a tonal whiplash. 1 minute, your brother is being processed at Aylsham police station. The next, you are sitting front row on a gold cushion next to Stella McCartney at a Tolucoker runway show. Charles arrived 25 minutes late. Perhaps he was waiting for the latest legal briefing. Looking dapper in a heather grey suit, but the business-as-usual facade was paper-thin. Body language expert Judy James has pulled back the curtain on what the king was actually feeling. She noted that while he offered the classic royal smile to the crowds, his eyes told a very different story.
And charge of misconduct in a public office actually has a sentence of a potential life imprisonment, and that tells you how serious this is. Obviously, these are just claims and allegations at this stage, but there are 9 police forces assessing a range of allegations relating to Andrew's conduct at the moment. So very, very serious.
That's right. Just on that. So Thames Valley Police, in regards to this particular investigation, are saying that this is extremely sensitive and please be mindful of the information that is shared. We heard from the King, didn't we, initially? Will we hear from them again, do you think, or is this it for a while?
Well, in the space of 10 days now, we've had 2 statements from the royal family, well, for the king. First of all, Buckingham Palace saying how concerned that the king was about this cascade of allegations that have followed Andrew. Then today, we've had Andrew.
Looking frail and a little hunched in his vast overcoat, Charles reportedly rested heavily on the interior door handle as he exited his car, a sign of physical and emotional fatigue. He was seen fiddling with the buttons of his coat, which James described as a self-protective barrier gesture, a royal suit of armor against the mounting public support hemorrhage. His brows were puckered and stippled, signaling a deep underlying sadness that even the brightest catwalk lights couldn't mask. While the king was navigating the avant-garde world of fashion, Queen Camilla was busy playing her own part in the royal Operation Stability. She was actually the first member of the family to be seen in public after the arrest, attending a lunchtime orchestral concert at Sinfonia Smith Square Hall. Looking remarkably composed, she followed the royal playbook to the letter, ignored the shouting press and focused on the music. As she left the hall, questions about Andrew were hurled her way, but she remained as silent as a rest in the musical score. The palace's strategy is clear. If we don't acknowledge the fire, maybe the public will stop smelling the smoke. But the smoke is everywhere.
Protecting him anymore. He's a private citizen, a private individual that has to face these charges.
An extraordinary photo that will go down in history.
A personally signed statement from the king, signed Charles R., was released via Buckingham Palace, stating he had learned of the news with the deepest concern. He emphasized that the law must take its course and pledged the family's full and wholehearted support for the investigation. It is a ruthless distancing that shows the York problem is no longer something the king can or will protect. So, what exactly triggered this unprecedented arrest on Andrew's 66th birthday? It all goes back to the Epstein files, over 3 million pages of documents released by the US Department of Justice. These files aren't just gossip. They are a paper trail of alleged misconduct. Between 2001 and 2011, Andrew traveled the world representing the UK. The new allegations suggest that in 2010, he forwarded official government reports about trade missions to China, Singapore, and Vietnam to Epstein just 5 minutes after receiving them from his assistant. Imagine being a government minister and realizing the prince was potentially using his privileged access to brief a convicted sex offender on high-value commercial opportunities in places like Afghanistan.
Because Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has just been released from police custody in Norfolk. after he was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. This is the first picture of the former prince as he left Aylsham Police Centre about half an hour ago. Earlier, he was arrested at Sandringham Estate on his 66th birthday. Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor has always denied any wrongdoing regarding his relationship with the convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, and we don't yet know what the conditions are of his release this hour.
This is why the charge is misconduct in public office, a serious offence that carries a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. It is the ultimate betrayal of the public trust, and for Prince William, who has reportedly wanted Andrew banished for years, this arrest is the rot he warned about finally reaching the surface. The public reaction in London has been a chaotic mix of about time, and this is making me puke. While some crowds outside Fashion Week cheered the king, others held signs questioning what the royals knew and when they knew it. BBC viewers have been vocal too, especially after veteran broadcaster David Dimbley's comments on the matter were met with a wave of disgust online. The sentiment on the street is shifting from sympathy for a family in crisis to a demand for accountability. Polling shows a hemorrhage of support for the monarchy as these scandals refuse to stay in the past. For every warm smile the king offers on a red carpet, there is a new document linking his brother to a global web of leverage and influence. The sadness Judy James spotted in Charles's eye expression isn't just about a brother in trouble. It is about the existential threat this arrest poses to the very institution he spent 74 years preparing to lead.
The shutters of a garage door rolled up at the back of a police station this evening in a small Norfolk town. Two cars drove out of the gates. In the back of one of them, behind the tinted windows, was, it transpired, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. And this is how we know. A photographer caught what will become an iconic image of the one-time prince on his 66th birthday. Looking much like a deer in the headlights, seemingly reclined to position himself out of view of the cameras, but evidently without success. It is one single photograph that encapsulates what has happened to this former Duke and younger brother of King Charles. Within the hour, in the darkness of the Sandringham estate, the same car drove at speed into his home at Wood Farm. He's been released by police, but remains under investigation. The day ended in a dramatic manner, and it started in one too, when on the King's Norfolk estate.
As we look at the sun setting on this historic Thursday, the situation is far from resolved. Andrew has been released under investigation and was photographed slinking back to Wood Farm in the back of a car, looking every bit the defeated man. Police searches are still underway in Berkshire, presumably at the Royal Lodge, as investigators look for devices that could yield more emails or market-sensitive texts. The King's Day at Fashion Week might have ended with a polite round of applause, but the full-scale firefight for the monarchy's future is just beginning. Charles has signaled that the crown will not stand in the way of the law, even if it means watching his own brother face a crown court. The sad news from the palace isn't just about the arrest. It is the realization that in 2026, the era of royal immunity is officially over. The king is sad, the public is divided, and the law is finally knocking on the palace gates. To truly grasp the gravity of this sad announcement, one must look at the fragility of the king himself. At 77, Charles is dealing with the weight of a crown that feels heavier by the hour. His physical appearance at Fashion Week was not just a fashion statement, it was a testament to the strain of modern kingship. The hunched posture Judy James observed suggests a man who was literally carrying the burdens of his ancestors' failures. For decades, the Windsor family operated on the assumption that they were the ultimate arbiters of British life. Yet, here's the king, leaning on a car door handle for support, while his brother sits in a police station being questioned about international trade espionage. It is an image of a monarchy in its twilight trying to find its footing on a catwalk that is increasingly slippery. The irony of the setting, London Fashion Week, cannot be ignored. Fashion is all about the new, the bold, and the reimagined. Yet, the king is currently haunted by the old, the shameful, and the suppressed. As he walked past rows of designers and models, he was essentially a relic of a different era, trying to survive in a world of total transparency. The mixed response from the public is a polite way of saying the monarchy is on life support in terms of its reputation.
At that picture. Yes. Talk about a fall from grace. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor there, looking terrified, isolated, startled, shamed.
Yeah, I think it's a very telling photograph. I suspect what he's doing there is ducking down to try and avoid the photographers, but
and failing.
And failing, of course, because they've taken the picture from the front where the windows can't be darkened. But he looks as though he's ducking down there, and that's why he's sort of got that sort of air on him. But look, he's had a traumatic, anybody would have had a traumatic 12 hours.
The sadness that Judy James detected is also a reflection of the king's own mortality and the legacy he is leaving for Prince William. Charles has spent his life trying to be a good man, a protector of the environment, and a modernizer of the faith. Now, his reign is being defined by a brother who refused to go quietly into the night. The puckered brows and stippled expressions are the signs of a man who knows that no matter how hard he smiles, the history books will always have a chapter on the Epstein arrest. It is a tragic end to a long wait for the throne. And let us not forget the 92% of viewers who haven't hit that subscribe button. Even they are likely glued to this story because it represents the ultimate celebrity downfall. But it is more than celebrity, it is constitutional. If a prince can be arrested for misconduct in public office, it sets a precedent that could change the relationship between the people and the palace forever. The sadness isn't just personal, it is institutional. The king is grieving for the version of the monarchy that he believed in, one that was respected, protected, and above the fray. That version died today at the gates of Sandringham Estate. As the investigation continues, the palace's business-as-usual approach will become increasingly difficult to maintain. You can only attend so many orchestral concerts and fashion shows before the reality of a criminal trial becomes unavoidable. The king's warm smile and acknowledging wave are the last vestiges of a bygone era. The fiddling with the buttons is the gesture of a man who is trying to hold together something that is fundamentally unraveling. The sad news is the monarchy has lost its most valuable asset, the benefit of the doubt. The arrest of Andrew is the moment the mask finally slipped, and the sadness underneath is all that remains. The world is watching, the police are searching, and the king is walking a very lonely path through the world of high fashion. It is a day that will be remembered not only for clothes on the runway, but for the prince in the precinct. The end of an era is never pretty, but in 2026, it is being televised, tweeted, and analyzed by body language experts in real time. The sadness is just the beginning. The reckoning is here. Thank you for watching.